Uncovered, the surprising Victorian cure that transformed women's lives in incredibly dark ways. As Emma Harper sat in her sunlit living room, the scent of aged paper enveloped her like an unwelcome shroud. Her grandmother's journals lay open on the coffee table, revealing the sinister truth behind the so-called rest cure. Words rushed at her like arrows, stifled ambition, buried creativity, suffocating expectations. The weight of her inheritance pressed heavily on her chest. Could it be that the darkness she read about had seeped into the lives of the women in her family? Her grandmother, her mother, had their dreams been crushed under such an oppressive philosophy? A swell of anger mixed with unease gripped her. Emma felt the pressure of destiny pulling her back. Her mother's expectations lingered like a ghost. Obedience, conformity, they were virtues her mother had prized. She pictured her mother's worried frown, her knotted brow whenever Emma whispered ambitions of academia. Despite being 30 years old, Emma often felt like a child, tethered to an unyielding belief that she ought to embrace the life path prescribed by her family. And yet, beneath that familial loyalty simmered a desperate need to challenge the very confines that had stifled her aunts and ancestors. Emma's fingers trembled as she flipped through the fragile pages, her mind racing. How could she pursue her research on these Victorian ideologies at the local university, a place that echoed with patriarchal disdain? Each time she stood before her peers in the faculty lounge, she felt the fog of scrutiny enveloping her, a stifling embrace that made her second-guess her worth. When she spoke, her voice seemed to fade, drowned out by the thunder of male confidence. Did anyone truly believe that women's stories belonged in the present? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension coiled tightly in her chest as Emma learned of the university's troubling plans to reintegrate outdated Victorian perspectives into the curriculum. Her frustration ignited a sense of resolve that sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Why not use her grandmother's revelations as ammunition to confront those who sought to undermine her? The thought of weaving her family's narrative into a powerful manifesto sent her heart racing. But could she do it without alienating the very family that shaped her? The ghosts of the past haunted her at every turn. Each new discovery about her ancestors deepened her conflict. Did fighting for her dreams mean shattering her mother's? As she prepared for her decisive meeting, doubt crept back in. Would her mother view her ambition as just another rebellion? How could she unleash the voices of women relegated to silence without losing her own identity in the flames of familial expectations? Emma looked down at the journals, heart pounding with uncertainty. Her grandmother's whispers surged within her, pushing her toward a precipice of change, knowing the stakes were higher than personal ambition. Standing before the university, she was about to confront not just her past but the chains that bound women across generations. How far was she willing to go to reclaim their voices and, ultimately, her own? The question loomed over her, a storm ready to break. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows in Emma's living room that danced like the ghosts of unfulfilled dreams. She had spent the night immersed in her grandmother's journals, feeling the layers of discontent slip away as her determination solidified. Fueled by the urgency of her discoveries, Emma assigned herself a new role, a champion for the women whose voices had been silenced. But excitement quickly gave way to anxiety as she rehearsed her arguments, pacing the length of the floorboards. What she had uncovered was rich fodder for her university presentation, a bold critique of the very curriculum that sought to reinforce outdated norms. Yet, with every resolute step she took, doubt whispered insidiously in her ear. Would her colleagues dismiss her findings as mere emotional reactions to historical injustices? Could she bear their scorn? She wrestled with the fear of being labeled as overly emotional, a trap constructed to keep women in their so-called place. In that cramped space, the flicker of her ambition flickered against the oppressive expectations. Suddenly, she found herself at a crossroad. A choice loomed larger than the shadows within her: fight for a voice while risking her familial ties, or retreat into the comfortable silence prescribed by her lineage. The day of her presentation arrived, churning her stomach like a tempest. As she entered the lecture hall, the usual sardonic gazes followed her, a mix of skepticism and expectation. Emma set her notes on the podium, bracing herself for the scrutiny. As the murmurs faded, the eager faces of her peers settled before her, their gazes an unspoken challenge. Gaining momentum, she began to speak of the societal constructs that had stifled women for centuries. With fervor, Emma outlined her grandmother's experiences, an unforeseen narrative that pulsed with the resonance of shared struggle. Each word crafted a bridge between past and present, igniting a fire in her soul. Gradually, the atmosphere shifted, students leaned forward, intrigued. But just as she felt the thrill of acceptance, a question pierced through the room like a dagger, severing her momentum. Do you believe your family's experience is representative of all women's lives? A male colleague asked, crossing his arms. The challenge simmered with condescension, seeking to delegitimize her work. For a moment, Emma faltered, her thoughts racing. Had she stepped too far into the foreboding territory of anonymity, the embodiment of rebellion against her own? But deep inside, she felt her grandmother's spirit surge within her, reminding her that every voice mattered. Absolutely, she replied, a newfound calmness draping over her like a protective cloak. Every experience matters, including those like my grandmother's that were deemed insignificant. It's time we confront our history without fear. The ripples of her assertion echoed within the walls, and she noticed nodding heads amongst the audience. Perhaps they were finally beginning to see it too. But standing her ground came at a price. Emma's heart raced, nervously anticipating repercussions. Would she remain a pariah among her peers, or had she ignited a small wormhole of change in an otherwise impenetrable complacency? Even as discussions raged around her, she found herself searching for the familiar, worried expression of her mother in the crowd, wanting validation from the one she feared would reject her. Her mother's ideals, though once oppressive, now seemed to pin her down like heavy weights on her ankles. As the seminar drew to a close, Emma felt worn yet exhilarated, a ball of both anxiety and triumph. The present had dislodged the chains of her past, exposing the intricate complexities that defined her identity. But just as elation pulsed through her, another thought settled in her mind like a leaden anchor: her success might demand more than she was prepared to give. Would her growth ultimately lead to a fracture in her family ties? Emma stared into the now empty hall, uncertainty brewing in her heart, knowing that the next decision could shatter everything she held dear. How would she navigate this intricate dance between passion and loyalty, ambition and familial obligation? The resistance that lingered in the corners of her mind loomed larger than ever, and as Emma walked away, the reality hit her: the battle for her own voice was only just beginning. The days following her presentation were an unending cycle of reflection and confusion. Emma found herself enveloped in the aftermath, both buoyed by the small murmurs of support she received and haunted by the specter of disapproval lurking in her mother's silence. Each time she passed her mother in the kitchen, she felt the weight of their unspoken rift grow heavier. The tension between her new path and her family's expectations loomed like an ominous cloud over their interactions. Motivated by her recent breakthrough, Emma decided to delve deeper into her scholarly research, seeking to unearth additional voices long suppressed in history. The journals became a refuge, their pages brimmed with stories of resilience wrapped in the stifling confines of societal norms. She documented the experiences of women who resisted conformity, each tale a candle flickering inside her burgeoning resolve. However, with every new discovery, she was reminded of the challenge that lay ahead. How could she honor these women while navigating the fraught landscape she shared with her family? One evening, as she meticulously pieced together fragments of women's stories into a coherent narrative, the doorbell rang, slicing through her concentration. She opened the door to find a classmate, Lila, her expression a mix of concern and excitement. "I heard you presented about your grandmother at the seminar. Can we talk?" Lila's enthusiasm was infectious, but Emma's heart hesitated. Every conversation about her work intensified the pressure she already felt. Still, she invited Lila in, curious about how this unexpected visit might spark new ideas. "Your presentation was really impactful," Lila began, settling into a chair. "I hadn't considered how much individual stories contribute to our understanding of the past. I've been thinking about it a lot. Do you want to collaborate on a project?" Emma's initial impulse was to say yes, the vision of shared discovery igniting something in her. Yet doubt crept in. "What if I'm just riding a wave? I don't want to let you down if I can't handle this." Lila smiled. "But what if you're not just riding a wave? Maybe it's more of a tidal wave of talent just waiting to emerge. Your story can influence others too." Emma was taken aback by the gravity of that thought. Was she more than just an emotional reaction to her past? Did her voice carry the potential to reshape how others viewed women's histories? The conversation flowed, marking a shift in Emma's perception of her own agency. As they explored ideas for their project, something within Emma shifted. Her fears of inadequacy receded, replaced by the stirring sensation of opportunity. Would embracing her grandmother's struggles ultimately chart a course of empowerment for herself? Later that night, Emma mulled over Lila's words, weighing them against her family's expectations that felt like a heavy cloak. Could she safely navigate these waters, or had she unleashed a current that threatened to drown her in familial disappointment? Emma forced herself to commit to the idea of collaboration, driven by the belief Lila inspired. But deep down, another conflict flared. Would pursuing this path fracture what little connection she had left with her mother? The question was a jagged rock she suddenly found herself staring at with no clear way around. Tomorrow, she would speak to Lila again and begin outlining their project. But along with this newly emerging commitment was a twinge of dread. Would stepping further into her advocacy sever the fragile ties of loyalty to her family? The next step loomed before her, a moment that could ignite a new direction or plunge her deeper into uncertainty. The choice between remaining tethered to the past or plunging into an unknown future full of potential but fraught with peril. Emma stood at the precipice once more, feeling the biting wind of change against her skin, ready to decide. The morning light filtered through her window, casting sharp beams that illuminated the clutter of notes scattered across Emma's desk. Each page bore witness to stories that spoke of struggle and triumph, struggles that were echoed in her own life. Today marked the beginning of her collaboration with Lila, and as she prepared to meet her, Emma felt the weight of anticipation and anxiety intertwine in her gut. Navigating the crossroads of her life felt almost like walking a tightrope. The fear of her family's disapproval loomed larger than ever, yet the idea of weaving the myriad tales of women's resilience into a collaborative project excited her. Lila had a hopeful enthusiasm that was hard to resist, yet Emma's inner voice whispered doubts that played like an endless loop. Would venturing deeper into her academic passion alienate her from her roots? From the family expectations that felt both claustrophobic and comforting? When Lila arrived, she brought with her snacks and an air of effervescence, the kind that made it easier for Emma to forget, at least for a moment, her internal wrestling match. "I've been thinking," Lila said as they settled down, "why don't we start by framing our project around the unexpected ways Victorian women resisted the constraints imposed on them?" The sudden shift in focus sparked something inside Emma. Women pushed back in ways we don't often recognize. Like making use of medical practices that were, frankly, horrendous to navigate a patriarchal societal framework. The stories of women using these cures, like the bizarre treatments for hysteria or the coercive practices disguised as help, cast new light on their silent rebellions. Lila nodded, clearly intrigued as Emma's voice gained momentum, her passion bubbling to the surface. "It's not just about the resistance, but also about how these women turned oppressive situations into unique pathways of autonomy." It clicked for Emma. The research, the collaboration, and the personal stakes fully intertwined. She was no longer just telling her grandmother's story, she was amplifying the voices of women who came before her. As the morning passed, they went deeper into their discussions, sharing notes, ideas, and ultimately, their own vulnerabilities. Emma revealed her fears about her mom's silence and the gaping void it created between them, while Lila shared the pressure to conform to her own family's expectations of success. This mutual confession forged a bond, a strong synergy, and Emma realized that her fears hadn't isolated her, they were shared experiences that many women struggled with. Each resonance ignited a flicker of empowerment between them. Standing on the edge of this new venture felt exhilarating, yet Emma still held back. Her progress hinged on one choice: could she articulate to her mother her commitment to this path without fear of irrevocable disappointment? Each time she pondered this, the specter of disagreement loomed large. Eventually, they formulated an outline, their collaboration blossoming into tangible plans over coffee-stained pages and lively debate. By the end of their session, Emma felt as if she had uncovered a piece of herself, an advocate for women's stories juxtaposed against the quiet strains of family loyalty that tethered her. She wavered between feeling liberated and paralyzed by her next steps. As they wrapped up, a question crept into her mind: if she pursued this project, how would she explain it to her mother? Would it be perceived as bitter rebellion or earnestly seeking personal truth? Emma's heartbeat quickened. "Let us meet again tomorrow to finalize the first draft," Lila suggested, injecting a note of urgency that snapped Emma back to reality. "Sure. I'll be ready," Emma said, her voice steadier than her heart felt. But with every tick of the clock, the quiet breath of uncertainty intensified. Tomorrow loomed, bringing not just a meeting of minds, but the daunting task of confronting her family's expectations. Did she have the courage to stand firm in her newfound aspirations and face whatever backlash might arise? As Emma walked Lila to the door, an unsettling thrill raced through her. Tomorrow would be the day she embraced her path fully, regardless of the shadows waiting for her at home. Would this leap expose her to the freedom she craved, or the pain of further estrangement? Emma woke the next morning to an uneasy stillness. The world outside her window buzzed with the promise of a new day, yet her mind remained clouded with trepidation. There hung in the air a fragile tension, the weight of tomorrow's meeting heavy on her conscience. Would today involve a bold affirmation of her ambitions, or would it devolve into a painful confrontation? In her cluttered office, she stood before her notes, each one a thread of her kin's complicated legacy, unapologetic tales of strength and defiance that clashed with her family's traditional values. Lost amidst the letters and thoughts that surrounded her was a sliver of clarity: she could not allow fear to define her journey any longer. Gathering her thoughts, Emma settled at her desk, determined to channel her anxiety into productivity. As she sifted through their outlined project, she mentally rehearsed how she would frame the concept to her mother. Words of resistance, of reclamation, lingered on her tongue, yet they twisted into unresolved knots in her stomach. How would her mother react to these ideas, one foot firmly rooted in history and another stepping towards an uncertain future? With each keystroke, Emma's resolve built. She began drafting the first sections of their work, weaving together narratives of Victorian women who wielded agency in extraordinary circumstances. Amid the retouching of her draft, she found unexpected strength in the very struggles she sought to portray. Women, often silenced, had carved their paths through the chaos. Each story she uncovered became a reminder that she could carve her own too, one that honored her heritage while pursuing her truth. When she met with Lila, the air buzzed with excitement, a shared sense of purpose igniting between them. "This project isn't just an academic endeavor for us, Emma. It's a reclamation. Think about how many lives we might touch," Lila exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with passion. Emma felt that spark. Right. These stories aren't just old pages, they resonate with our struggles today. We are the modern inheritors of their resilience. Yet as they discussed layouts and citations, the phantom presence of her mother loomed larger in Emma's mind. How would her mother perceive this creative journey? Could she see it as a tribute to their shared history, rather than a rebellion? Later that evening, Emma's pulse quickened at the thought of sharing her work with Lila, yet it was a visit to her mother that truly paralyzed her. With a deep breath, she decided to confront the growing rift between them. Would she reveal her project during dinner? Or save it for a quiet moment afterward? A measured silence defined their evening. Her mother's head was deep in a book, unaware of the internal storm brewing within Emma. When she finally spoke, the words felt heavy, like iron. "Mom, I started a project with Lila." The phrase trailed off as doubts coursed through her mind. What did she truly want to convey? The urgency of self-expression weighed against the fear of disapproval, morphed into an internal struggle more complex than she had anticipated. The moment felt suspended in time, each tick of the clock echoing Emma's mounting anxiety. Her mother finally looked up, and apprehension twisted in Emma's chest. Would she recognize the weight behind Emma's ambitions? Would she understand the call to redefine not just Emma's narrative but the narratives of all women who've paved the way before her? As her mother's expression softened, hinting at curiosity instead of scorn, Emma felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, being true to herself did not have to mean losing the connection she cherished. Perhaps there was room for innovation alongside tradition. But as she began to formulate words, an unexpected sharp sound shattered the ease. The doorbell rang, jolting her from this pivotal moment. Who might it be? Emma felt a mix of dread and anticipation, an interruption that threatened to derail everything she was building. Would it be an opportunity, or a disruption? Tomorrow's clarity might not only define her work with Lila, but could also lead her to uncharted emotional territory. Emma braced herself for whatever lay ahead, caught between the past and future, fully aware that each decision carried the potential to reshape her identity. Emma hesitated at the sound of the doorbell, torn between her internal promise to open up to her mother and the unknown visitor's potential disruption. She felt her heart race. This was a pivotal moment, and yet, the ringing seemed to draw her away from the very conversation that might redefine her relationship with her mother and her understanding of self. Do I answer it? She wondered silently, the internal conflict between obligation and ambition waging war. She inhaled deeply, steeling herself against the turmoil. Perhaps opening the door would alleviate the tension, offering a brief reprieve before she plunged into the deeper waters of emotional confrontation. As she approached the door, she imagined an array of faces, a neighbor stopping by to borrow sugar, a friend with friendly news, or even a stranger with unexpected but welcome tidings. Yet when she swung it open, she was met with an expression she hadn't anticipated. Lila stood on the porch, her brow creased with concern. "Emma, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought we could discuss our project more if you had time," Lila offered gently. The earnestness in her voice brought an unexpected warmth to Emma's chest, contrasting sharply with the chill of her mother's hesitance just moments ago. Emma glanced back into the house, where her mother had returned to her book, seemingly oblivious to the tumult transpiring outside. Should she prioritize the discussion with Lila, a friendship that fortified the changing narrative of her own identity, or face the potentially transformative discussion inside? The choice loomed over her, a metaphor for her dual existence, devotion to family intertwined with the pursuit of personal truths. "Let us talk," Emma resolved, a surge of determination fueling her. She beckoned Lila inside, propelling herself forward into the chaos of unknowing. As they settled into the familiar rhythm of brainstorming and building ideas, Emma once again felt that initial spark of excitement, each word exchanged strengthening her vision. They discussed illustrations that would portray the women whose lives they hoped to highlight, and every mention of resilience painted vivid imagery in Emma's mind, layering her ambition with color and shape. She could see the project morphing into an honoring. It was not just a school assignment but a legacy reclaiming ground lost to silence. Yet, even in the midst of this shared passion, Emma was acutely aware of the weight of the conversation waiting for her at home. Every laugh shared with Lila was tinged with the knowledge of her reality that while she was attempting to embrace her individual narrative, the bond with her mother sat precariously unaddressed. "Are you okay?" Lila's voice cut through her thoughts. Emma blinked, absorbing the concern in her friend's eyes. "You seem distracted. Is it about your mom?" Emma sighed, pausing as she let her thoughts coalesce. "It's just I want to tell her about the project, but I'm scared. Scared of her reaction, scared she won't see it the way I do." Lila leaned in, earnest as always. "You have to take that leap, Emma. You're doing something important. Your voice matters." And think of it this way: if she truly loves you, she'll want to understand. The conversation shifted something inside Emma. Perhaps the leap was necessary. Perhaps preserving the relationship with her mother meant being vulnerable, allowing both women to engage in an evolving dialogue rather than slipping further into division. As night deepened, and with Lila's encouragement still echoing in her mind, Emma committed herself to having that conversation after all. Once Lila departed, Emma stood before her mother, who was now quietly sipping tea in the stillness of the living room. The moment felt heavy with promise and apprehension. She clenched her fists, the edge of her notebook scribbled with words she needed to share. "Mom," she started, her voice wavering slightly before it steadied. "I want to tell you about the project I've been working on." But before she could articulate the depths of her vision, another sound, a soft knock at the back door, interrupted her. A familiar figure emerged, casting a long shadow over the room. Emma's breath caught in her throat as she recognized Oliver, a voice from her past, a mix of exhilaration and dread rushing through her. What could he possibly want now? Emma felt the familiar crux of loyalty envelop her. She was on the precipice of a change that had the potential to redefine her life and her family bonds, and now Oliver introduced a new layer of complexity that could threaten it all. Would she seize this moment or falter? The unfolding night promised revelations that Emma couldn't begin to foresee. Emma's heart raced as she wrestled with a storm of emotions: excitement, anxiety, and confusion flooding her senses. Oliver had once been a constant in her life, a best friend turned distant memory, a relic of past selves that now felt foreign to her. Yet, there he stood, a doorway to unanswered questions and maybes hanging in the air, just as she had resolved to break through walls with her mother. "Emma," he said, a hesitant smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "It's been a long time." The normalcy of his voice felt surreal amid her internal chaos, where every moment felt pivotal. She forced a smile, masking the rush of thoughts that screamed for her attention. "Yeah, it has. What are you doing here?" "Just passing by and thought I'd stop." "Is your mom home?" The undertone of his words, laced with the unwelcome notion of disruption, twisted in her stomach. Her mother looked up from her book, surprised, and waved a hand. "Oliver. Come in." Emma stiffened as he entered, the air thickening with an unspoken tension. She glanced toward her notebook resting still on the table, pages filled with dreams of empowerment and expression. That moment of revelation she had anticipated with her mother felt eclipsed by Oliver's presence. She could feel the gravitational pull of their shared past, clashing with her present ambitions. Dragging her focus back to Oliver, she felt an odd mix of nostalgia and bitterness. How had they let each other drift so far? She studied him as he interacted with her mother, those familiar mannerisms stirring memories of days spent laughing and dreaming. Yet, the ache of regret gnawed at her from within. "Emma's been working on a project," her mother said casually. "You should hear about it." The words hung heavy in the air, a lifeline tossed amidst the tension. Emma's pulse quickened. She could speak now, reclaiming her narrative, or she could let the moment evaporate under the warmth of fond memories and old ties. Without overthinking it, she seized the opportunity. "It's a project about women's contributions to history," but the words jammed in her throat as she saw Oliver's expression change. He leaned forward, curiosity peeking in his eyes. "That sounds like a big deal. What's the angle?" Caught off guard by his interest, Emma's instinct was to backtrack. She wanted to protect her words, they felt fragile amidst her ongoing battle with vulnerability. "I'm trying to focus on women's resilience," she continued. It's important to me. It's part of my journey to find my voice." Oliver's gaze narrowed, an unreadable expression flitting across his face. "Your voice. I remember how passionate you were back in high school about not being seen as just one of the crowd." His words held an unexpected weight, and Emma felt a flicker of something deep within her unravel, a flicker of courage. "That's exactly it. I want to tell stories that matter, that highlight strength, not just in history but also in today's world." Her mother nodded with approval, a warmth radiating from her. Yet Emma felt as if she had stepped onto a precipice. What if Oliver didn't see the depth of her drive? What if he reduced it to simple nostalgia or a fleeting idea, something to be dismissed as immaturity? Emma, I've always seen you as someone who is capable of big things, Oliver said, breaking her spiraling thoughts. I'm just surprised it took this long for you to make a move. His words pressed against her psyche, the challenge implicit within them. There was both reassurance and pressure layered within his comment. Could she really step into this larger world, beyond the walls of her home, and embrace the turbulence of claiming her narrative? She swallowed hard, emotions surging. I have to. I need to own my story because no one else can do it for me. With each spoken phrase, Emma felt herself unraveling the tightly wound threads of doubt, exposing the vibrant core of her ambition. She sensed a turning point on the horizon, but Oliver's presence complicated the path she envisioned. What did it mean for her past to intertwine with her present aspirations? As she locked eyes with Oliver, questioning his understanding and support, she hesitated. Was she ready to confront the truths buried in their shared history? The shadows of uncertainty loomed over her, even as ephemeral light shone from her ambitions. Suddenly, Emma felt the full weight of the choices before her. Would she be resolute enough to merge these worlds, or would she hesitate, allowing fear to pull her back into the shadows? The unfolding night held the potential for clarity, or perhaps, even further complexity. Emma inhaled deeply, preparing to bridge the gap. But was she ready to connect the past with her burgeoning identity? The air hummed, waiting for her answer. The words hung between them, alive with unspoken possibilities. Emma's pulse quickened as the moment expanded. In the presence of Oliver, the remnants of her high school self surged back, clamoring, nostalgic shadows vying for dominance over the woman she was striving to become. She had decided to seize control, yet doubt festered like a shadow at the edges of her resolve. Emma, Oliver said, breaking the thick silence. What you're doing is significant. But what's the endgame? What do you want to accomplish? The question hit hard, probing into the heart of her ambition. Did she want recognition, validation, or something deeper? Emma's thoughts whirled, hitting a roadblock. She longed to divulge her mission, yet, with Oliver's gaze fixed on her, the words felt scrutinized, analyzed. I want to bring light to stories that are too often left in the dark, she said slowly. To encourage others to embrace their histories, no matter how painful. Oliver's brows knitted in concentration. His sincerity both reassured and startled her. But how? What are your next steps? The weight of his inquiry propelled her into untested waters. She considered her notes, the inked pathways of her thoughts, the passionate threads she had woven together. I need to conduct interviews, explore archives. I want to compile narratives of resilience, focusing especially on women who have been historically overlooked, she explained, each word becoming a stepping stone. It's about visibility, about breaking silences. The corner of Oliver's mouth curved slightly in admiration. Emma could feel the encouragement radiating from him, yet the warmth was intertwined with something else she couldn't name. That sounds ambitious, he said, almost hesitantly. Do you think you can push through the obstacles? Emma felt a flicker of anger rise. Had he really just questioned her resolve? It's not about whether I can. It's that I must. Too many stories have been silenced, and it's time to change that. In her fervor, she recognized how the act of advocacy became palpable in her tone. An undercurrent of emotion overflowed into her consciousness. This was not a childhood dream, this was her truth wrestling free. The realization lifted her resolve. Emma, Oliver's voice softened, I never wanted to doubt you. I know being vulnerable is hard. You were always so guarded. His words struck a chord. Vulnerability, it was the missing link between her ambitions and her fears. But had he assumed her structure of strength was built upon mere bravado? Swiftly, Emma shook her head. I'm not guarded anymore, Oliver. I refuse to hide behind walls erected from the past. His gaze sharpened, the unspoken acknowledgement dancing like a flame between them. Emma clung to the moment, cupping it within her hands. Yes, she was shedding layers, resolving to embrace newfound bravery. "What about you?" Emma asked, tilting her head with genuine curiosity. "What have you been working on? Are you still into photography?" Oliver's expression shifted, reflective and vulnerable. "I've been exploring themes of isolation and belonging, but it's hard to connect the dots without a clear vision. Like you, I'm navigating my own uncertainties." Emma's heart twisted at his confession. Here stood a figure from her past, grappling with shadows of his own. Their journeys felt intertwined in unexpected ways. The notion that both of them were on the cusp of transformation stirred something new within her, an urge for collaboration, a desire to push back against their shared inertia. "We could collaborate on something," she proposed, surprising herself. "You could document stories while I write about them. There's power in combining our talents." Oliver's eyes lit up, a spark igniting in the depths of their shared history. "I would love that, Emma. It's time we create something that matters not just for ourselves but for those who feel invisible." Her breath caught in her throat. This was a bridge, a way to connect both remnants of their past and threads of her burgeoning identity. Still, fragments of doubt fluttered in the corners of her mind. Was this a genuine partnership, or a return to the shadows that had once existed between them? With his offer lingering in the air, Emma felt the story shifting once more, the narratives they could create forming a canvas that begged to be filled. But as excitement surged, she wondered, would stepping onto this battlefield of shared experiences clear old wounds or reopen them wide? The complexities of their past, intertwined with their present ambitions, held a tension that both thrilled and terrified her. What would it mean for their individual journeys? Emma felt the whispering winds of change swirl around her, and she could not help but take a breath, preparing to face what lay ahead. "Let us meet tomorrow to flesh out ideas," Oliver suggested, eyes shining with renewed purpose. "Yes," she replied, firm in her conviction. "It's time we emerge into the light." But as Oliver stepped back, their connection still crackling in the air, Emma realized she stood at the brink of new revelations, not only about their potential collaboration but also about herself. Was she truly ready for everything that awaited her? The echoes of what lay behind weighed heavily, foreshadowing the decisions she had yet to confront. The night grew still, the allure of the dawn waiting to expose what awaited them both. Emma awoke with a start, the early morning light spilling through her window, layering the room in soft hues of gold and amber. The warmth was comforting, yet it did little to quell the storm brewing inside her. Last night's conversation with Oliver lingered in her thoughts like a melody she couldn't quite place, a yearning for connection mingling with nagging insecurities. She turned her gaze to the wall, where her research notes hung, each piece a stitch in the tapestry of her dream. As she rose from bed, a sense of urgency propelled her into action. With coffee brewing, she began to gather her thoughts, scribbling down ideas for potential interviews and narratives. This project was no longer merely an academic exercise, it was personal. Each name she wrote down felt like a promise, a commitment to bring forth lives that otherwise remained in obscurity. She sought to bridge the gap between the shadows of the past and the light of recognition. Flipping through her notes, she found herself pondering how to approach these interviews. The notion of vulnerability weighed heavily on her. Would she be able to create a space that invited honesty, that encouraged others to share the heaviness of their stories without fear of judgment? This was the challenge she now faced, to confront her own vulnerabilities while allowing others to do the same. In the pursuit of truth, wasn't she also exposing herself? Those thoughts revolved in her mind as she prepared to meet Oliver. The potential for collaboration felt like both an opportunity and a risk. Would their shared past cloud their judgment, or could it fuel a deeper understanding? Emma scrutinized her reflection as she brushed her hair, searching for the confidence she desperately needed. Arriving at the cafe, the ambience buzzed softly with anticipation, a mixture of hopes and dreams reflected in the faces around her. She spotted Oliver at a table, his camera resting beside him like a guardian waiting for the right moment to capture a fleeting beauty. He looked up and smiled, an easy warmth radiating from him that eased her anxiety. "Hey," he greeted, motioning her over. "I've been thinking a lot about your project." There was excitement in his voice, but also an undercurrent of seriousness. "Me too," she replied, taking a seat across from him. "I've been mapping out potential interview subjects. I want to reach out to women from different backgrounds, to encompass a variety of experiences." "Great idea. But remember, it's not just their stories you're uncovering. It's your own too." His gaze was steady, probing. Emma swallowed hard. Was she truly ready for that kind of introspection? Was this endeavor more about the narrative she wished to tell than about the invitation to explore her own story? "And what about you? How do you see your work evolving alongside this?" "I can document their experiences through visuals," he suggested, animatedly gesturing with his hands. "But I'll need to dig deeper than surface-level shots. I want to capture the feeling of their journeys, the essence of their strength." In that moment, a thread intertwined, connecting them like the brush of ink on paper. They were both artists, striving to articulate complexities often left unsaid. Emma considered how their strengths could complement each other, yet a flicker of apprehension ignited at the edges of her mind. What if their interpretations diverged, leading to conflict instead of clarity? "Oliver," she began, her voice wary, "what if we interpret their stories differently? How do we resolve that?" His brows knitted slightly, but instead of pulling back, he leaned in, drawing her attention fully. "We talk. We share what we see, we confront those differences together. That's where the real beauty lies, recognizing that every story has layers." Emma felt a flicker of hope and doubt coexist. His insight made sense. She yearned for authenticity, yet feared the emotional tug-of-war that exposing herself could summon. This project meant confronting her own past intricacies while amplifying others' voices. The acts of listening and documenting were inherently vulnerable, a dance into the unknown. As they sketched out their plans over steaming cups of coffee, Emma felt unease transforming into determination. Their combined efforts took shape, morphing from abstract ideas into something tangible, two creative minds intertwining, ready to embark on a journey of storytelling that could challenge and redefine narratives. The conversation deepened, shifting toward logistics and intentions, but one thought began to intrude into her soaring imagination: what toll would this undertaking exact on her emotional stability? How would she balance the revelations in others' lives with the clarity of her own? As they wrapped up their brainstorming session, Emma's heart raced in anticipation. The path before her shimmered with promise and peril, and she felt poised at the precipice of transformation. Yet a question lingered: was she prepared for all that this project would demand of her? With her mind a whirl of possibilities, she stood to leave, her pulse echoing the rhythm of uncertainty, but she was ready to step boldly into the light she sought to share. Tomorrow, the first interview awaited her, but today, Emma contemplated a daunting reality: what if addressing the darkness in her own narrative became her greatest test yet? Emma stood in front of her mirror, steadying herself before the first interview of her project. The reflection staring back was no longer the woman weighed down by family expectations or the haunting silence of her mother's disapproval. Instead, a fierce determination glimmered in her eyes, embodied in the conviction of her purpose. Today, she would not only unveil the stories of others but confront her own narrative head-on. As she pulled on her jacket, the scent of her grandmother's engraved journals lingered in her mind, whispering tales of resilience and courage through the generations. It was time to step into that legacy and claim her role not only as a student of history but as a voice for those long silenced. Emma arrived at her first interview location, a quaint community center nestled in a historical district. There, she was set to meet Clara, a local historian and storyteller who had spent years collecting forgotten narratives from women within their community. The atmosphere was imbued with unassuming charm, yet Emma felt adrenaline thrumming through her veins. This wasn't merely an interview, it was a threshold one she was determined to cross. When Clara entered the room, a vibrant smile lit her face, instantly easing the tension Emma had built around herself. "I'm so excited to share these stories with you. Every one of them is a puzzle piece that completes the larger picture, Clara remarked as they settled into chairs adorned with nostalgic floral fabric. Emma smiled back, but a twinge of anxiety gnawed at her. Could she truly encapsulate the intricate narratives of these women? Would her own doubt seep into the telling? She closed her eyes for a brief moment, inhaling deeply to ground herself. "I want to ensure your stories shine through as they deserve," she replied, her voice a soft but steady echo of conviction. Their conversation blossomed, weaving together layers of history, hardship, and triumph. Each story Clara shared struck a chord within Emma, resonating with strands of her own struggle against silencing forces. Clara spoke candidly about the women who had forged paths of defiance through hardship, each tale a testament to resilience, each name a legacy demanding recognition. As the dialogue deepened, Emma felt a profound transformation unfolding within her. She could see the lines connecting her own journey with those encapsulated in Clara's narrative. This realization was exhilarating. These women had not only fought against societal constraints but had also paved ways for Emma to explore her own ambitions. Hours later, as the interview concluded, Emma felt lighter than she had in years. She had captured not just the essence of Clara's stories, but also realized that reclaimed agency was both a personal and collective journey. In sharing, she had unlocked a gateway to vulnerability, a place where her voice intermingled with those she interviewed. It dawned on her that this vulnerability was the true fulcrum of her purpose. That night, Emma returned to her home, a manuscript of so many stories swirling in her mind. She was ready to confront her mother with her newfound strength and vision, knowing that every narrative she honored in her project echoed the need for understanding and connection within her relationship with her family. No longer did she need to fear her ambition, instead, it became the vehicle through which she could bridge the gap that had long existed between her and her mother. With a fierce resolve, she set aside time to speak with her mother. Emma approached her in the living room, where her mother sat, eyes fixed on another ancient novel as the light glimmered softly on the pages. Swallowing the familiar fear that gripped her heart, Emma softly cleared her throat. "Mom, can we talk?" Her mother looked up, surprise flickering across her expression. "Of course. Everything okay?" "Actually, it's more than okay," Emma replied, her voice steady with newfound confidence. "I'm working on a project that's allowing me to focus on women's stories, real stories about resilience and resistance. It matters to me deeply." As she spoke, she felt the tension in the air crackle, carrying the weight of how their lives had been shaped by circumstances beyond their control. Her mother's eyes shimmered with intrigue but also skepticism. "That sounds different. What do you mean by resistance?" Emma drew in a deep breath, allowing her grandmother's spirit to buoy her own. "There's power in these stories, Mom. I'm learning how these women found ways to navigate their lives, even when the world tried to silence them. I want to honor their voices, and I want to honor my own." From the corner of her eye, Emma saw her mother's expression shift from concern to something deeper, understanding perhaps. There was a hesitant respect reflected there. "It sounds like you're really passionate about this, Emma," her mother said carefully. "But how does it impact us? Is this about rebelling against the family values I've passed down?" Emma couldn't navigate the complexities of this moment without openness. "It's not rebellion, Mom. It's evolution for both of us. I'm not rejecting our history, I'm embracing it as part of my journey. I think we could even find common ground in these stories." The air was thick with unspoken possibilities. Emma's bold declaration sparked a flicker of hope in her soul, but she knew one conversation wouldn't resolve all the intricacies of their relationship. But it was a start. Her mother sighed heavily, the tension easing into a pensive calm. "I just want what's best for you. I worry you're chasing something intangible, Emma. I want to see you succeed." As Emma exchanged a look with her mother, she felt the walls begin to crumble ever so slightly. Here was the chance not just to reconnect with her mother, but also to strip away past assumptions and expectations. "Mom, I think success comes in many forms. For me, it's about finding my voice in the world. Would you want to hear the stories I gather along the way? The question hung heavily in the air. A moment stretched between them, echoing with the promise of vulnerability. Finally, her mother replied, voice low but steady, yes, I'd like that. I'm open to understanding. In that moment, Emma felt the chains of generations loosen. Her path felt clearer now, defined not just by ambition but by a commitment to create bridges. As reality solidified around her, she recognized her personal transformation was rooted in the ability to weave together the stories of those who had come before her with her own emerging narrative. With a deep breath, she anticipated the journey ahead, aware that her project was not simply academic, it was profoundly personal and ancestral. Emma understood now that this intertwining of family history and new aspirations was not just a burden, but a remarkable opportunity to grow from the past while stepping boldly into her future. As soon as she embraced the whole of her story, she stepped onto a pathway paved with authenticity and a deepened bond with her mother. Each day forward could bring more stories, empowerment, and healing. Emma walked tall, ignited with passion for what lay ahead, a testament to the indomitable, interwoven threads of womanhood that her voice would finally honor. And for each step taken, Emma knew she would be ready to face whatever awaited her. She would never falter again. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.